training first responders for EV emergencies. That's our Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. With us from General Motors is Global Product Safety and Systems Engineer Joe McLaine. Hi, Joe.
Hey, good morning, Fred, and how are you?
I'm doing terrific, thanks. Well, GM has created an EV first responder training effort. Give us an overview of what this is.
Yeah, you bet. We're really excited to conduct this training and deliver it direct to the first responders around the country. We've even targeted locations in Canada, but really looking all across North America to deliver much needed and much anticipated awareness and training for first responders in dealing with the new technologies on the road. This is really an evolution of what General Motors had done more than 10 years ago with the Chevy Volt as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. We'd call that an extended range electric vehicle, but was a revolutionary technology at the time with a large lithium-ion battery pack and several other inventions. But what we're doing today in 2022 and looking to do it and continue it through 2023 is to deliver this training, 4 hours of training to first and second responders at the locations in their regions, in the areas that they are living and operating and conducting their duties, so we can raise awareness on some of the recommended practices and some of the things that we have put out for public consumption on dealing with battery electric vehicles and emergency situations. And it runs a wide gamut from post-incident, post-crash, a whole host of things that we address some first responder concerns about, and really trying to drive home the fact that we stand behind the safety of our product. We really think that with some awareness and some training to help support them in their duties, that this will help spur widespread adoption of electrified vehicles.
Well, you said much needed. So why is there the need for this?
So we think there's a need because there are a lot of misconceptions about what electric vehicle technologies are and how dedicated the automakers and really those in the entire ecosystem of transportation are behind this technology. So there are a lot of unknowns by first responders that may not have ever interacted with an electrified vehicle on the road in an emergency situation. But what we are trying to get across is there are a few changes, but for the larger part, many of their duties are going to remain the same. And the approaching a vehicle, sizing up the vehicle, dealing with a vehicle, there are some very common sense recommendations that the industry, again, helped spearhead through General Motors, through a lot of standards development organizations like SAE and ISO, but making them aware of the resources that are available so they do not have any concerns, coming upon or interacting with these vehicles out in the field.
What are some of the basics that you can share with us that first responders, maybe even consumers, should be aware of?
I think the first thing is that General Motors and the automotive industry in general are very committed to safety, and that really goes through the design, the development, the engineering, the production, and the servicing of these vehicles on the road. So the first thing that we really want people to be aware of is that orange color, the industry standard, has become high voltage cabling, high voltage components, including the battery, the chargeable energy storage system, or the RES in the vehicles. The industry standard has consensus on the color orange as being the identifiable color for do not cut this, do not try to pry this open, do not try to manipulate this. And we General Motors have taken a lot of effort to package those high voltage components in areas that are suitably protected from crash impacts or other types of things, so that in the performance of their duties, first responders should really not have to come across these orange cablings or orange components. So the first thing is look for the orange cabling and do not cut that. Do not try to manipulate or cut into those. The second is be aware that many first responders don't know about the resources that have been made available to them free and publicly and put out there on the internet. We have partnered with the National Fire Protection Association and others, but have reached a internationally standardized format and presentation of information in our rescue documents that we've made publicly available for all of our battery electrified vehicles. But stepping through those with the first responders and talking about the different sections in which the industry is consensed on what presentation of information might be most applicable to their performance of duties. And we also are excited to talk about what we imagine an alternative presentation of information, moving from two-dimensional rescue sheets to something more informative and illustrative, as they're even arriving or getting to a scene, that might be driven from vehicle telematics information, other information that right now was relayed voice to voice or telephone operator to telephone operator from, say, an OnStar advisor to a dispatch center, but really trying to streamline the information flow so that first responders have the information they need as they're arriving to or en route to a situation.
What are some of the more common misconceptions that you'd like to address here?
Well, I think there are a lot of misconceptions on the safety of these vehicles. So we have designed and we continue to design vehicles with a number of crash protocols and testing in-house. And we also, in the training, share a video from the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety. IIHS runs a lot of independent crash evaluation and tests on our vehicles. And I don't know that many people are aware of how detailed and how thorough those design decisions and testing protocols are that the federal government has mandated we consider. The other is that these vehicles are somehow, we want to make sure they understand how safe these vehicles are and address some of their concerns. And so it's a multi-pronged approach. This first responder training is also, aligned with many efforts in the company to increase awareness on our commitments to electrification and how broad that approach is. But it's a multi-pronged approach by the company, General Motors and OnStar. But we have also partnered with, an academic institution, the University of Illinois' Fire Service Institute, IFSI, to conduct this training, and we've taken their curriculum on alternative fuel vehicles and added some more information that's really relevant, to the discussion today.
I guess consumers and the first responders would want to know, is there a greater fire danger? And is it, if the battery is on fire, is it automatically, there's a perception, I think, out there, maybe a misconception that it's automatically kind of out of control.
There are a lot of misconceptions. And what I want to address are, just how serious we take the idea of safety around this technology. Certainly, people may not understand what a battery management system is, or how evolved and mature certainly we believe our Ultium products are in dealing with any unforeseen or unanticipated circumstances. But we and the industry have also come to put out in multiple arenas that the best way to address a battery electric vehicle fire is with copious amounts of water. And there may be instances in which, if there's no risk of loss of life or loss of property or continuing the damage, that a battery electric vehicle on fire, the safest thing to do for both the immediate situation and downstream effects may be to let that vehicle consume. And many firefighters, it's they want to attack a fire, they want to put it out as quickly as possible and move on to the next thing. Well, copious amounts of water on a battery electric vehicle addressed, and placed at the heat source is the best way to address a battery electric vehicle fire. But these incidents, we've taken, again, great aims and efforts to address the crash worthiness of our products and the placement of the batteries in the vehicles. But hoping that answers the question.
Sure. And it's different than responding to an internal combustion engine emergency or fire?
Not entirely. So that's another misconception, is that there's a completely different approach. And there's really, in what we're trying to get across in the training, is rely on the training that first responders have received. And the differences are not that extreme. You still follow through the same process of addressing the situation, sizing up, understanding the vehicles, or what properties may be involved in the incident, but the aspects of attacking a fire and addressing a situation and dealing with other things are not that different. The use of water exclusively is, probably the most significant, and perhaps the one that people need to understand in resource constrained environments or situations where water may not be readily available, or copious amounts of water may not be readily available. And again, thinking about the downstream impacts of battery electric vehicles, or a battery component being transported to a tow yard or a storage facility. What we're trying to get across is that be aware of the situations, be aware of the technologies that have been put inside the vehicle, but to say that a battery electric vehicle fire is completely different than an internal combustion engine, it's not. And so fires present and manifest themselves in numbers of different ways, right? They're not all going to be as a result of a battery system failure, a battery, crash. Certainly there are other things inside all vehicles that are combustible, but the media loves to grab onto headlines about how unsafe, but we stand committed to the safety of our products well before we put them on the roads and in consumers' hands.
Terrific. So how do you get the training to where it's needed? Because there are so many, I don't need to tell you, so many agencies and first responders that really need to be made aware. How do you make this go viral, or how, I don't know how we can put it?
Well, here's the really great thing. Again, we've talked about how General Motors is leveraging, the ecosystem. We have also partnered with the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA, largely seen as the, preeminent standards body for the fire service, and really, addressing many of the concerns of the emergency responders across the country and across the world. But we have dedicated, a sizable amount of money to make the NFPA delivered training, which right now is online only, free to firefighters and volunteer firefighters around the country, specifically rural and underserved communities. So that is one prong of the effort. This direct face-to-face or in-person training that we're delivering at no cost, we've really been selective in the markets across the country that we're targeting and going to, and really looking to have the most impact in major metropolitan areas where EV adoption is ongoing, but also raising awareness and raising understanding of this technology on the roads. We have looked at, around 20 different metro markets around the United States, and are targeting the major metropolitan areas. I can tell you that we've initially focused our training here in Michigan. We've done our initial training in Southeast Michigan and Oakland County. And we had folks from many of the surrounding states, certainly in our home state of Michigan. We also had folks coming from the province of Ontario and across the border from Canada. We're delivering the next set of training next week, the second week of August, in Western Michigan, in Kalamazoo at Western Michigan University. And then we're going to shift our transition and focus on the East Coast, and moving from Metro New York down to metropolitan Washington, D.C., to the Research Triangle, to Metro Atlanta, to Florida, and then make a turn west and finish up the training for 2022 in the great state of Texas. And so we have partnered with, again, having the Illinois Fire Service Institute, and their leadership is, well placed within the fire chiefs, many councils and associations. But we have targeted areas where we think this training will have the greatest impact and, reach the greatest amount of first responders. One interesting fact for you and your listeners, Fred, is the vast majority of the fire service in this country is volunteer. Almost, completely different from many other westernized or modern societies where the fire service and first responders are much more nationally organized, or a national effort in terms of training, certification, and the like. But we think that as opposed to creating this training content and putting it up on a website or some other type of delivery mechanism, that going around the country and delivering this training in person with several, great examples of the battery technology and some of the emergency incidents that we, had talked about previously on this interview, but having that face-to-face interaction, that personal contact with subject matter experts from both General Motors, OnStar, as well as our partners at the Illinois Fire Service Institute, we think that's the best way to get the message out. And certainly we are looking at wrapping up and having an exportable training package at the end of this training effort in 2023, but we think the greatest impact is going to be going direct to first responders where they're at, where they live, engaging them in their communities, and taking this message to them in person.
Obviously important with the growth of electric vehicles and the forecast that we're seeing. Is there a place people can go to for more information, Joe?
There are a number of resources, and the first one I'd like to make your listeners aware of. GMEVFirstResponderTraining.com is where the training sign up and the registration. We also have a link there to a number of resources, again, trying to raise awareness about our commitment to electrification and raising the information level for not just first or second responders, but consumers in general. The other is, I'd like to draw your listeners' attention to where we post that freely available, public information. We call it our rescue documents, but it's our GM Service Technical College website dedicated to first responders. But those are the two resources and websites I'd really like your listeners to be aware of.
Oh, congratulations on the work that you're doing there. Joe McLaine, thanks for taking the time with us.
Thanks, Fred.